Hola, scholars! Today we are going to be starting a new story. Okay, I'm Miss Wagers back again, and the story that we are going to be reading today is called Coyote School News. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in and we will get started today. So this is what the cover of our book looks like. Okay, and we're not going to read the whole thing today. We're just going to read a short excerpt, and I think you're really going to enjoy this story. Okay, so let's think about what we are learning today. And I'm going to make this nice and big for us. Here we go. Okay, so today we are learning to analyze a text so that way you can see how an author creates a story using certain elements. Okay, so we know we're successful when you can identify elements in a story like the setting, the characters, and the point of view from which the story is told. So those are kind of the three main ones we're going to be focusing on today. Okay, story elements are all those things, like I just said, like the setting and the characters, but also like the plot. Okay, those are some examples of story elements. And then we're also going to use those story elements to help describe what's happening in the story. Okay, we do have 3 vocabulary words today, so a little bit more than usual. So the first one is stencil. Hopefully that's pretty easy. So that's like a sheet of paper or metal that has a design or words cut out of it. So like you can trace through on the stencil. So I included a picture of stencils of the alphabet. The next one is a different word that you probably haven't heard before. It's called mimeograph. Mimeograph, okay? And that is a machine that presses ink through a stencil to make multiple copies of a document or illustration. Okay, a mimeograph is more of an old-fashioned tool that was used to make copies of many things quickly. Okay, now like our copy machines, like we can copy things pretty quickly, or we have printers that we can make lots of copies of things. Okay, but in the past, those copy machines and printers weren't necessarily invented yet, and so a mimeograph was a good way to make multiple copies of something. And then the last word that we have is inspection. So that's a careful examination of something. That's why I included that magnifying glass, because we're going to look it over very carefully. Okay, so looking at close detail. All right, so before we start our story, we're actually going to read a quick poem. Okay, this poem is called Gold by Pat Mora, and we do have a nice picture next to it, which was illustrated by Thomas Locker. It says, "When the sun paints the desert with its gold, I climb the hills. Wind runs around boulders, ruffles my hair. I sit on my favorite rock, lizards for company, a rabbit, ears stiff in the shade of a saguaro. In the wind, we're all eye to eye. Sparrow on saguaro, watches rabbit, watches in the gold of sun setting. Hawk sails on waves of light. See sparrow, rabbit, lizards, me, our eyes shining, watching red and purple sand rivers stream down hills. I stretch my arms wide as the sky, like hawk extends her wings in all the gold light of this home." So when I'm looking and thinking about this poem, hey, this poem, if you notice, it didn't rhyme, okay? That is because this poem is written in what is called free verse, okay? And that means that it doesn't have to rhyme. Not all poems rhyme. But what this poem does do is it describes a setting. So it is describing, I can see here, it says, "The sun paints the desert with its gold, I climb the hills." Okay, there's boulders. Okay, so even though the author is not writing a full story, it's still very possible for them to describe a setting. Okay, and so in our story, we are going to be thinking about how our author is describing the setting in our story that we're going to read today. So again, Coyote School News, this is the full cover of the book, okay? So I can kind of already see that it looks like, maybe this is taking place in the past. I'm looking and I'm seeing, this car, that's not a car like we see today. And it's even labeled school bus. Huh, interesting. Okay, and I see people riding horses. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what is happening in this story. Okay. This is called, chapter is Rancho San Isidro. My name is Ramon Ernesto Ramirez, but everybody calls me Monchi. I live on a ranch that my great-grandfather built a long time ago when this land was part of Mexico. That was before the United States bought it and moved the line in 1854. My father has a joke about that. He says my great-grandfather was an Americano, not because he crossed the line, but because the line crossed him. In my family, we are 6 kids. Me, my big brother Junior, my big sister Natalia, my little tattletale brother Victor, my little sister Loli, and the baby Pili. My Tio Chaco lives with us too. He is the youngest brother of my father. The real name of our ranch is Rancho San Isidro, after the patron saint of my great-grandfather, but most of the time everybody calls it Ramirez Ranch. On our ranch, we have chickens and pigs and cattle and horses. The boys in the Ramirez family know how to ride and rope. We are a family of vaqueros. In the fall and spring, we have roundup on our ranch. Many people come to help with the cattle and the horses. Those are the most exciting days of the year, even more exciting than Christmas. The things I don't like about the ranch are always having to get wood for the fire and the long and bumpy ride to school. My Tio Chaco drives the school bus. It's not fair, I tell him. We have to get up earlier than all the other kids at Coyote School, and we get home the latest too. Don't forget, says my Tio, you get the first choice of seats. Ha ha. By the time the last kid gets in, we are all squeezed together like sardines in a can, and the bus is shaking and bumping like it has a flat tire. I wish President Roosevelt would do something about these roads, I tell my Tio. Hey, you know how to write English, he says. Write him a letter. Maybe I will, I say. And so down here at the bottom, we have pronunciations for our Spanish words. So the first one is Americano, which means American. And then we have Tio. And a Tio is an uncle. So we see Tio Chaco, that is our narrator's uncle. Rancho is a ranch. San is saint. And vaqueros means cowboys. So on the last page, our narrator had said, we are a family of vaqueros. That means they're a family of cowboys. Okay, so our focus question says, what clues has the author provided about the setting of the story? So let's think. So far, they've talked about how they are a family of cowboys. They have to go very far to get to school every day. They're riding that bus. He says they're the first ones to have to get up the earliest, and then they get home last. Okay, it talks about how it's a very rough ride to school, and we also have a map included on this page, so we can see the Rancho San Isidro is right here, very close to Mexico, because on the previous page, okay, it kind of talked about how the ranch was built a long time ago, and the land was part of Mexico. Okay, and then the United States bought it and moved the line, so then they ended up in the United States. Okay, so we know that we're talking very much in the southwest region of the United States. Okay, so we're talking very close to Mexico, and we can tell right now that this family has a lot of Mexican heritage. Okay, so other things, we know that they live on a ranch for the setting. It has chickens and pigs and cattle and horses. Okay, so we're thinking kind of like a farm. That's kind of like what a ranch is. Okay, so we have a ranch with lots of animals, and I'm guessing that there's probably not a lot of people around besides this family. This is not taking place in a city, okay, because they have to have all this room for their animals, okay? All right, so that's what we're thinking. I want you to get that picture of the setting in your head, okay? So we're in Southwest. It's probably pretty warm, okay? Lots of land and animals. Okay, so we're going to continue reading Coyote School. Mira, mira, Monchi, Natalia says, pinching my cheek. There's your little novia. She means Rosie. I like Rosie, but I hate it when Natalia teases me. Rosie lives at Coyote Ranch, close enough to school that she can walk. Always, she waits by the road so she can race the bus. Andale, andale, hurry up, we yell at my Tio Chaco, but every time he lets her win. Rosie wasn't first today anyway. Lalo and Frankie were. Their horses are standing in the shade of the big mesquite tree. Yap, yap, yap. Always Chapito barks when he sees us, and Miss Byers says, Hush, Chapito. Then she smiles and waves at us. Miss Byers is new this year. Her ranch is 100 miles from here in Rattlesnake Canyon, so 5 days of the week she and Chapito live in the little room behind the school. All of us like Miss Byers, even the big kids, because she is young and nice and fair. We like that she lives on a ranch. We like her swell ideas. Baseball at recess, 2, perfect attendance award. 3, Coyote news. And again, some of these words, we have mira, which means look. So when it says mira, mira, Manchi, she's saying look, look. Then we have novia, that means a girlfriend. So she says, there's your little novia. So she's kind of teasing him. And then we have andale, which means come on, hurry up. Coyote news. All week, we have been working on our first Coyote news. Natalia made up the name and Joey drew the coyote. First, we looked at some other newspapers, the Arizona Daily Star, Western Livestock Journal, and the Little Cowpuncher. That one we liked best because all the stories and pictures were done by kids. Manchi, said Loli, put me cute. What? I said. Sometimes it's not easy to understand my little sister's English. Miss Byers says you have to help me put words to my story, she said. Okay, I told her, but I have my own story to do, so hurry up and learn to write. Loli's story was muy tonta, but one thing was good. She remembered how to write all the words I spelled for her. So we can see muy means very and tonta means silly. So it says Loli's story was very silly, muy tonta. Even if Victor is my brother, I have to say he is a big tattletale. Chismoso. When Gilbert was writing his story for Coyote News, Victor told on him for writing in Spanish. But Miss Byers did not get mad at Gilbert. She smiled at him, and then she said, Spanish is a beautiful language that people around here have been speaking for hundreds of years, and that we should be proud we can speak it too. Ha ha, Victor, you big chismoso. When we finished our stories and pictures, Miss Byers cut a stencil for the mimeograph. Then she printed copies of Coyote News for us to take home, and we hung them up on the ceiling to dry the ink. My Tío Chaco said it looked like laundry day at Coyote School. So right here, I want us to go ahead and stop, and we're going to think about some of the story elements. Okay, so we have point of view. So point of view is one of these elements of the story that we really wanted to consider. Point of view is who is telling the story. So in this case, we have a first person point of view. Okay, and the person telling the story is Manchi. Okay, so Manchi is the one who is telling us all about what is happening. And we know that this is first person and that Manchi is telling us a story because we see the pronouns my, me, I, we, us, and our. So Manchi is including himself in the story. So like, for example, right here it says what I said. Okay, so I is Manchi. So some other examples from this page is sometimes it's not easy to understand my little sister's English. So I can see right here that this pronoun my, okay, is telling me that my is referring to Manchi, okay, is his little sister, Manchi's little sister, okay. And another example, even if Victor is my brother, I have to say he is a big tattletale, chismoso, okay. So again, Manchi is referring to himself as my brother and I. Okay, so as we're reading the story, you're going to be seeing these pronouns me, my, me, I, we, us, and our, because Manchi is telling the story to us, and Manchi is involved in the story. Manchi is in the story doing all the things. Okay, so that's why it is first person. Okay, he is telling his own story of what's happening. So we have a picture of Coyote News here, so I will just go through and kind of read it to you. That says Coyote News, and it says, I am new. Okay, and I can see right here, it says September 15th, 1938. So I can tell that this story is definitely taking place in the past, okay? So just a little secret for you. My grandma was actually born in 1939. So this, and she's like 81, okay? So this is 1938. That was years and years ago. It says stories and pictures by the students of Coyote School, Pina County, Arizona. Okay, something new at Coyote School. Coyote News was the idea of our teacher, but we write stories and I draw pictures. The big kids help the little kids. Rosie Garcia, grade, sorry guys, I know some of this is hard to see. This book was a little hard to get all the pictures and everything to come in just right, so we're doing our best. Grade 3, about Coyote School. This year we have 12 kids and all the grades except grade 5. And that is by Billy Mills in grade 3 as well. We ride our horses to school. The road to Rancho del Cerro is a very big problem for the bus of Mr. Ramirez. For that reason, Lalo and I ride our horses to school, 16 miles all the days. The year past it was 2,352 miles. We had to put new shoes on the horses 5 times. That is by Frankie Lopez, grade 6. The perfect attendance. Miss Byers will give a prize to anybody who comes to school all the days no matter what. The prize is called the Perfect Attendance Award, and it is a silver dollar. For me, perfect attendance is not easy, but oh boy, I would like to win that silver dollar. Monchi Ramirez, grade 4. So this is this article that our narrator read. And then we have Yap Yap by Cynthia. Chipito. The dog of the teacher is called Chipito. He is very cute. He looks like he likes Loli best. Story by Loli Ramirez, grade 1, with the help by Monchi Ramirez, grade 4. And then last one is Señor Grandote. Our bus driver ran over a big rattlesnake. We took the skin and gave it to our teacher. She measured him with a yardstick. He was 5 feet 7 inches. She hung him on the wall next to President Roosevelt. We called him Señor Grandote because in Spanish it means Mr. Huge. That is by Gilbert Perez, grade 6. Can you imagine if your teacher hung a big rattlesnake skin on the wall? Whoa, and said, I'm not a fan of snakes. That wouldn't be okay with me. And we will continue. We have chiles. Every day I am asking my father when we will have roundup. He says I am making him loco with my nagging and that first we have to pick todos los chiles. All of us kids are tired of picking chiles. It doesn't matter that we get home late from school. We still have to do it. And then before the chiles dry out, we have to string them up to make sartas. Last night we were taking about 600 pounds of chiles to my tío Enrique's ranch. I was in the back of the truck when it hit a big rock. All the heavy sacks fell on me. Oh boy, it hurt so much. But I did not tell my father. He had told me not to ride in the back of the truck, and I was afraid he would be mad. My hand was still hurting this morning when Miss Byers did a fingernail inspection. Monchi, she said, what happened to your wrist? It's all black and blue and swollen. The chiles fell on him, Victor told her. My father told him not to ride in the back. Chismoso, I hissed at him. Miss Byers called my tío Chaco over, and they had a long talk. Back in the bus, mijo, my tío said. I have to take you to Tucson. Tucson, I said. You got to see the doctor, he said. So we drove all the way to Tucson to my tia Lena's house. At first, my aunt was surprised and happy to see us, but then my tío told her why we were there. Monchi, my tia said. Pobrecito. She told my tío Chaco to go back with the bus and she would take care of me. My tia took me to the doctor. He moved my hand around. It hurt when he did that. I'm afraid the wrist is broken, he told my tia. I need to set it and put it in a cast. So I got a cast of plaster on my arm and I had to stay in Tucson. But for me, that was no problem. My tia felt very sorry for me. She cooked my favorite foods and I got to pick the stations on her radio. That night, Miss Byers called on the telephone to ask about me. She said she would come early Monday morning to drive me to school. On Sunday, my tia took me to the Tarzan show at Fox Theater. It was swell. After the show, we got ice cream and walked around downtown to look in the windows of the stores. I saw many things I liked. The best was a silver buckle with a hole to put a silver dollar. Ay caramba! I wish I had a buckle like that. Okay, so then again, just some of our Spanish words. We had loco, which means crazy. Okay, and then we had todos, which means all. Los is the. Chiles, we had the chili peppers. And sartas is a string of chili peppers. So remember on the previous page, he said that they had to make the sartas. Okay, so that was strings of chili peppers. And we have mijo, which is my son, and tia is an aunt. So we've been hearing about tío Chaco. Now we have tia Lena. Then we have pobrecito, which is a poor little thing. So when tia Lena sees Monchi, she says, pobrecito. Okay, so that means you poor little thing. And then ay caramba means, oh boy. That's something that my grandma actually would say a lot when I was growing up, and my sister and I would play at her house. She'd say, ay caramba. So that makes me think of her. Okay, So with our journal entry today, I want you to describe Dialena based on the details on page 66. So page 66 is this last page here. And again, go ahead and look in the slide so you can look back at this page to describe Dialena. This is part of our success criteria because we're thinking about how can we describe these story elements? How are we going to describe Dialena? She's one of our characters, okay? What do we think about her? Use some evidence from the text to help you out, okay? So good luck, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Adios.